Ready and racing.
Welcome to the Dogcast for Greyhound Racing SA. Visit grsa.com.au.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Dogcast, brought to you by Greyhound Racing SA. I'm your host, Brenton Yates, and joined today by, a man you see many places, radio tab race caller Lachlan Stace, also, of course, heavily involved at Greyhound Racing SA. Lockie, welcome. We've had a big week.
Yeah, we have, and probably too many places, Brenton, but great to be on here today, filling the big shoes of Sean Matheson, and of course, we have an even bigger week coming up this week with the running of the Shane McQueen final, but a massive week last week as well.
Yeah, we had Victa Damian take out the Howard Ashton, so we'll look back at that and see what that all means and sort of where he heads from here. And then for me, the Shane McQueen is an intriguing final. I mean, the way the box draw has panned out, I've found it tricky. I'm probably going to tip something at value in that race. So
yeah.
I can't wait to get your thoughts on how that may all play out. So we've got plenty to come. We'll check out the big race from last week, Victa Damian taking out the Howard Ashton, and also lead into the big race on Thursday night, the Shane McQueen.
The Week in Review.
Our Week in Review brought to you by the Fresh Pet Food Co., proud suppliers of fresh pet food for our GAP SA Greyhounds in the GAP prison programs, and of course they're based right here in South Australia. You can visit their website, freshpetfoodco.com.au for more information. Well, Lockie, I guess we start at the top, mate. The review of the big one, the Group 3 Howard Ashton. Look, the market billed it as a one-act affair with Victa Damian. Heavily backed late, was $1.45, got all the way into $1.18, I think it was at one point, and he was able to really put them away. What did you make of the win?
Yeah, it was a big win. Obviously, once Victor Tara went to the front from box 7 and Victa Damian lopped behind and avoided a little bit of that squeezy trouble on the first turn, it was going to be game, set, match from that point onwards. That second half acceleration of his race is just so exciting when he manages to really pull away off the back and on the home turn. He's just got such a strong run home. He's an absolute marvel, and it was really good to see him back here in South Australia. Obviously, Tony and Lisa trying to get him back to an age-restricted race after racing a lot in Victoria, Interstate New South Wales, obviously, and WA against some pretty tough competition as well. So to see him back in South Australia, big confidence boost for him. And then when he heads to Queensland, this week, it's going to really serve him well heading back into interstate races. Yeah,
look, your point's well made. And I think Tony and Lisa have done a fabulous job with the planning and the thought process behind the best way to handle him, because he's going to have a big calendar. Yeah. So this was a patch where there was some nice money on offer at home. It was against, as you said, the age-restricted sort of setup. And they could have him here. Didn't have to do any travel. Didn't have to, tucker him out with unnecessary stuff. And he was able to get a big race under his belt again. So I think it's all played out beautifully. He's now obviously headed up to Queensland for the Flying Amy. We'll touch on those in a minute, along with a few of the kennel mates. What about the rest of the race, the Howard Ashton? Obviously a one-act affair. What did you make of those in behind? Yeah, well, Livet ran another good race, I thought. He's being really consistent for the Rasmussen team and around the mark. And obviously, with that litter, that Victor litter, a lot of those dogs are going to win a lot of races here in South Australia going forward. Obviously, a few of them heading up to Queensland as well on Thursday. So the Rasmussen team taking a big team up. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I thought, any greyhound in that race, you'd be happy to have in your kennel at the moment. Yeah, so, quite an extraordinary situation, wasn't it, with that litter? 6 of the finalists, Tony and Lisa with 7. Kuron Cam was the other one in the race. Obviously, I thought it ran okay. Drew didn't where it didn't want to be, and able to work to the rail and able to work its way into a placing. But just not up to the level, of course, of Victa Damian. Not that many are, of course, at the moment. You speak about Thursday night in Queensland. So Tony's taking a group up for the Flying Amy. Now, he's undecided, I think, at this stage as to what he's going to do with Victa Damian in particular, heading toward the Brisbane Cup. They've got the heats there later in June with the final early July, but that's certainly on the cards. They're just going to sort of weigh it up and see. But he's come up with box 1 in his particular heat of the Flying Amy race 3 on Thursday night. He's $1.40 in early markets. Well, it's about time he had some luck with one of these interstate draws. Box 1 along the inside, that should suit him. Obviously, the only concern with Victa Damian is his jumping. We saw it in the Australia Cup where
He just didn't jump with him, and it cost him, and it was still a massive run. But sometimes when you jump like he does, especially against these higher class of greyhounds, then it's going to make it hard to avoid trouble at times. So that's the only key with him. If he can learn how to jump properly with him, then he's made. But obviously when you're racing up against a higher calibre of greyhounds, it's going to be a little bit tricky to miss the start and jump like he does. But at the same time, I'm sure Lisa and Tony are working on that very hard with him. So he's one of those greyhounds that will probably work it out in the long term. But it's going to be very intriguing to see how he goes when they draw box 1 on Thursday night. That's a big help, of course. But also, it's his first look at Albion Park. So in race conditions, that is. So we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, look, I think Tony touched on the beginning factor post-race after the Howard Ashton. He said they'd tried a few different things during the week, and it seemed to have worked. He related it back to that's sort of how he jumps in the trials, which is better than he had been under race conditions. But that's as well as we've seen him begin the other night. I reckon in the Howard Ashton, he was sort of at least out with them. And I feel Lisa and Tony think they might have just found something that can rectify that early situation. We'll get a good look at that anyway on Thursday night. He did trial box to box on Monday night. I didn't get the times for that, but he has been up there and done that. Look, the other ones heading up are Victor Marley, who's drawn 7 in race 2, so at big odds there. Livet has drawn box 7, big odds as well, who was runner-up, of course, behind Victa Damian. It's drawn 7. And Victor Albion, the 2, is in the market around $7.50 in the early tab fix market.
Yeah, we had a big month for last month. He seemed to drop off a little bit heading into the semis and, of course, the final of the Howard Ashton, just not racing up to his full potential, I reckon. But he's got heaps of ability. I was speaking to Tony about this greyhound last month, and Tony has a really high opinion of him. He has since day one. And he's developing really well after that time he spent in Victoria. So hopefully another trip interstate will do him good, and he can return to some of that old form we saw about a month or so ago now. And box 2 should really suit him in that 7th heat because he's a sort of greyhound. He can cop a bit of heat. He can muster up. He begins well, but he can also cop a little bit of heat into that first turn and still run on. So it'll be very intriguing to see how he goes. And obviously, he's not coming up against Victa Damian either, which will make it a little bit easier for him. But some good competition at Albion Park as well. Yeah,
there'll be all eyes on the screens, no doubt, on Thursday night to check out all that action. What about the review, the Shane McQueen heats? So we had 4 heats last Thursday night at Angle Park. Let's get into what played out there and how all these runners made their way through to the final. First heat was race 4 back on Thursday night, and the short price favourite Ravers Army home.
Yeah, good win by Ravers Army. And Tim Aloisi just has a knack at the moment for finding those dogs that can run over the 595 well. He's got some really good dogs over from interstate. Ravers Army has really come into his own since racing here in South Australia. He was a little bit touch and go at first when he first came over here, but has really started to develop nicely. And I'm
a bit worried about his starts at the moment. Yeah. Like his last couple of starts, he hasn't been beginning out of boxes, and he's found his way, with greyhounds in front of him.
Yeah.
Now, he's been in fields that he's been able to find his way to the rail and finish well, but in a full field on Thursday night, I just wonder if he can get back to that really nice beginning, which we know he certainly has in him, and I'm sure Tim would prefer to sort of see that happening at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be very intriguing. Of course, when he first came to South Australia, when he was racing away from an inside draw, he did struggle a little bit. Yeah. And credit to Tim, he's been able to work that out of him, and obviously he's a lot more versatile now, and he can be drawn really anywhere and still run a good race. But I think with these 595 races, a lot of the time, if you have a 595 dog, they're racing in a field of 5 or 6. So a lot of these greyhounds racing in a full field would be a little bit different for him. So Ravers Army being one of them, hopefully he can navigate that. But box 6 does make it very tricky, and that draw on Thursday night really does change the complexion of that race.
Flip the script got through, able to work through, find the lead, but was run over the top of, but able to hang on into a second spot and gain its spot in the field. One of the more hotly contested heats was race 5. We had Machismo, Miss Scallywag, Razzle, Darrell, sort of all going to the line together, and that trio, Machismo and Miss Scallywag making their way through to the final. What did you make of this?
Machismo likes it out wide, and I think box 8 will suit him in the final. Obviously, His PB is probably a little bit of a concern. He's a little bit slower than the other greyhounds in this race, but at the same time, he does not mind a wide draw. And Vagan Ross has done a really good job with his greyhound over the last couple months, and he's really turning into a nice middle distance greyhound, Machismo. So I was quite impressed with his run, but obviously it was that sort of scrambly race, and for him to feature in the final on Thursday night, he's going to probably need that scrambly affair up front to run over the top, but Box 8 shouldn't be a massive concern for him.
He's nice and strong late. That last 20 or 30 metres was really powerful. He got over the top of them. Miss Scallywag had room early to move and was able to get through, headed, and was sort of coming again on the line. So you just wonder if that pair will figure in the finish, though, on Thursday night. We had the third heat of the Shane McQueen. Springvale Max able to get to where he likes to be, straight down to the rail, and defeat Hoogley.
Yeah, well, once he got down to the rail, I think there was a lot of noise up in the restaurant, especially from that Gavin Harris table. They were excited. So he's been a really good greyhound for Gavin. You look at his strike rate and what he's been able to do.
He's just so honest, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, if he can get to the rail, he just doesn't run poorly.
No, he doesn't. And Gavin's done a really good job with his greyhound. And look, box 4, obviously away from the rail on Thursday night with his draw, but at the same time, if he can carve over and just find that position, then he's going to be running home real strong, and he's a really nice, consistent dog as well. And he's only been racing over the 595 quite lightly, but he looked well suited to that on Thursday night.
Hoogley's going well for Rob Harness. He's really got the greyhound ticking over nicely. He's run some good sprint races, and look, I thought was solid enough in its particular heat running second. We come to the fourth and final heat of the Shane McQueen, and this is the quickest qualifier. Could Be King went home in 34.42. Has come up with the same draw, which we'll get to in the final, and beat home Dash of Blue.
Yeah, well, he's an exciting greyhound, Could Be King. Of course, he kicked it all off when he won the Gawler Golden Maiden Series final a few months back. He looked really promising then with his second half acceleration. Sometimes he can get caught a little bit back in the ruck, and that can cause a few problems for him, but at the same time, he really does finish off his race as well, and I think the Rawlings Kennel have every means to be excited about what he can do going forward. Obviously, if not this feature race, he will be winning a feature race down the line. Box 7 in the final on Thursday night, obviously a little bit of a concern against the full field, but if he can get some clear air, I think he's going to be very dangerous just because of the way he's racing, and he's a really exciting young greyhound.
I thought Dash of Blue closed off pretty well.
Yes.
In behind him. Like, it was a really nice last 30 metres of the race to get to within that 3/4 of a length margin. I thought was very, very nice effort.
Yeah, well, Richard Pearce obviously has a very high opinion of that greyhound, and racing really well at the moment. Box 1 on Thursday night in the final could make things very intriguing for Dash of Blue, and it does finish off its races really well.
Looking forward to it. Big night Thursday night, the final of the Shane McQueen. And up next, we're going to preview the full race.
The Preview.
The preview is brought to you by SA Greyhound Tips Twitter feed. Free tips for SA Metro Greyhound meetings. Search at the Dogs SA and get on board as always. Gamble responsibly. Well, here it is, Lockie. The Shane McQueen Trophy, the rug, sensational sort of grey and, would you call that apricot? Yeah,
very hard colour to get a gauge on.
It's sort of a peach, a very, very nice rug. And look, what a race it's going to be on Thursday night. This is over the 595 metres. Shane McQueen, named after former CEO here at Greyhound Racing SA. And the tavern itself, of course, is McQueen's Tavern, named after Shane, who was so instrumental at a key stage of greyhound racing, actually. He was really the man who spearheaded the ability for greyhounds to get a market share of the revenue from the TAB dollar. So I really think he's left such a legacy in greyhound racing, and for us to be able to earn the money that we sort of do now on a scale of performance, so to speak, really is attributed right back to Shane McQueen. So, look, it's a prestigious race, no doubt about it. The race itself is worth $10,000 to the winner, nearly $15,000 overall. I don't have an early market for you, but I'll just run through the box draw, Lockie. Dash of Blue has drawn 1, Hoogley in 2, Miss Scallywag in 3, Springvale Max box 4, Flip the Script in 5, Raver's Army in 6, Could Be King box 7, and Machismo is in box 8. I've been through this race so many times and come up with so many different scenarios. I'm a bit confused, to be honest. So I'd rather hear from you to start off. Maybe you can give me a bit of clarity. What have you made of all this?
Well, you guys have had pretty easy the last couple of weeks with Victa Damian racing here in South Australia. Pretty easy tipping, but this race, this is the definition of even here. There is a lot of different scenarios that could possibly happen. Like you look at the inside, Dash of Blue, not an awful amount of speed. Springvale Max begins well. Miss Scallywag begins well. Hoogley's okay away. I've gone Could Be King on top. I think he can just lob into a nice handy position midfield. If he avoids danger early, then he should be able to just lob into a nice handy posse and should be too strong late. But in saying that, he hasn't met a field of this calibre yet over the 595. So I've put him on top based off pure ability and the future he has coming ahead of him. And he does have a very strong PB as well of 34.37. But at the same time, he's yet to meet a field of his calibre. So
look, he's drawn probably where he wants to be, hasn't he? In a way. Like we saw the other night from the 7, he loved that clear room and then he really let go. Like he had some gears, he shifted through and going through the pen into the back and took over. That last bit, he was being closed off late by Dash of Blue. I think the key to the race is, like, does Raver's Army step? Yeah. You know, if he's out and begins, then he's easily the quickest greyhound on exposed form in this race. Like, he's got 3 or 4 lengths on them if he runs to his best.
Yeah, exactly.
Could Be King is not, we haven't seen its best yet, so it may still have another level that we haven't seen. And then you come back to, so, okay, they're not running in lanes, right?
No.
So the situation we've got here is you've got to try and balance what times these dogs can run with what sort of luck they're going to have or not have in the race. And that's where this race, to me, is a bit tricky. If Raver's Army begins, I think there's 2 scenarios. If he begins, it's done. Mm-hmm. I think he wins, makes it 7 in a row and runs pretty good time. Because how are they going to get past him? Yeah. Like, he's super strong. The other scenario is he doesn't begin. Yeah. And to me, that's where
everything opens up.
Pigeons happens. So for me, I'm actually going to tip Dash of Blue.
Yep.
Now, look, you could think that on his heat run that he likes a wide draw. But mate, he's had 2 box 1 wins from 2 box 1 starts. And if you go back to his run over this track and trip 4 ago, he drew box 1. Now, he does want to shift off a fraction going to the first bend. But I think he might nearly have that space to be able to do it. But he closed off far better than Could Be King in that race. And he may even be in a far better position. Rather than giving Could Be King 3 or 4 lengths this time, he might actually be right with him, going through that first. And I thought at the odds, I mean, he's going to be... Is he going to be close to double figure odds, Dash of Blue? I don't know.
You'd reckon.
He might be. And he's certainly going to be the rougher of Raver's Army, Could Be King and himself. So I've got him on top as a bit of an each-way play. I've tossed Raver's Army in because I've got so much respect for this greyhound and what it's capable of doing. And the only concern for me is the start. I mean, if he flops out again, there's talent in here that you can't be giving big starts to despite how strong you are. So I've got him in for second. Could Be King. He could be anything. And he's a real favourite of mine. Like, I do like him. So it's hard not to have him even in the top couple in this race. But I can see him sweeping around them. But I can just see a couple of the others being in front of him. And has he got that power at the end to get over the top? I'm not sure on what we saw Thursday night. And maybe Hoogley's the other one. But who do you think's the main danger to Could Be King then?
I think it's Raver's Army, based off what you said. I think if he jumps, then it's game, set, match. But at the same time, I really am concerned about him in a full field, and obviously from that draw of box 6. So I put Raver's Army in for second. My third pick before Springvale Max. I think if he can get down to the rail, he's going to be dangerous. And I threw in Machismo for 4th from that wide draw. But I've gone 7, 6, 4, 8. But again, a very, very tricky race. I think Could Be King. I think he's the one to beat for mine. Yep. If he can lob midfield, I think he's an exciting, young and up-and-coming greyhound. But as I said, the main danger, I reckon, is Raver's Army. And I completely do get your point about Dash of Blue as well. Off that inside draw, going back, looking through his form, he does have the ability to run a pretty big race here. But you look at this whole entire field, and dogs like Hoogley are racing well for Rob Harness. He could easily come out and rung a blinder as well. So it's a very, very intriguing race. Plenty of chances. Yep. But for me, could be King on Top, number 7.
All right, rolling terrific. That's the Shane McQueen final on Thursday night at Angle Park. Speaking of Thursdays, what's the best bet, Lockie? Who do you really like out there on Thursday night?
I went in the other 5.95 race a bit earlier on in the night, Brenton. Race 6, number 1, Fantastic Dixie. I think she makes an easier field here compared to recent runs where she's come up against a lot trickier competition. Box 1 suits her down to a T. Her Box 1 record is very good. 6 goes from Box 1 for 3 wins, 3 placings. I think she just gets her draw. She meets the field she wants to meet. I think she'll be okay in the market as well, considering there are dogs like Spring Agatha, See My Future, Razzle Darrell, and even Miss Free Rain that's been racing well lately for John Gale. But you look at her PB here, 34.09, really rakes well compared to the other greyhounds in this field. I really like her from the inside draw. So race 6, number 1, Fantastic Dixie on Thursday night at Angle Park, my best bet.
Yeah, mate, I'm with you. She's one of mine. I'm going to put in, and look, super I thought behind Springvale Max, in the heat of the McQueen. Cop that early traffic. Tried to weave through, then coming off the back, they sort of jammed again and it lost its momentum again, and then still able to keep coming. I thought it was a super run. It had win next start written all over it for me. Look, Miss Free Rain in that race, I think, was a good run too in the heats of the McQueen behind Machismo. Its last 20 metres, I thought, closed off nice, but I was happy to be with Fantastic Dixie. And the other one I thought, probably be short, is Coorong Cam. Yeah. So the place getter through the Howard Ashton, he comes up with a draw that can suit him. So he's got 3. He probably gets down hard to the inside. There is a little bit of pace underneath, but he was the other one that I was pretty keen on Thursday night. Race 4, number 3, could make that a bit of an all-up. I'll tell you what, Lockie, as well, that first race at Angle Park on Thursday night. So we've got the Bay Road Queen coming up soon as well over the journey, the 7:30 metres. This is a really intriguing distance race too to get us started Thursday. Have you had a look at that at all?
Yes, obviously Bedrock Will drawing the inside. Clint Trengo doing a massive job with his greyhound at the moment, and you've got Zipping Neutron for Tim Aloisi coming over here from Interstate. Had its first start in South Australia last week when running second behind Bedrock Will. And then you got the likes of Fantastic Luna, who's stepping up to the 7:30 for the first time, and of course Springvale Bray as well. He's been racing okay for Michael Geniotis, but will probably struggle from box 8. But it's going to be a very intriguing race. I think it's between Bedrock Will and Zipping Neutron. I think Zipping Neutron can improve off that run last start, so I think he's going to be really dangerous in the first race. Based off his Victorian form and what we've seen from him interstate, box 3 a little bit closer to the inside, and I think he may be able to reverse that result on Bedrock Will on Thursday night.
Yeah, look, I agree totally. I've got him on top, Zipping Neutron in that particular race. What'll be interesting is how the market sets up. So Bedrock Will was $2.40, $1.95 Zipping Neutron last start, if it's sort of similar, or whether Bedrock Will does tighten in a bit off that win, even though the margin was so scarce. But I agree. I think Zipping Neutron looks the one.
And what we've found here at Angle Park, especially with interstate dogs coming over, they do usually need a look at this track. We find that a lot of the time, even with Victorian dogs coming over here just to race a one-off situation, they do really need that look before they can show their true potential here. So I think that'll be the case with Zipping Neutron.
Well, Lockie, that's us done, mate. Yep. Another terrific edition of the Dogcast. They'll be running for this and $10,000 on Thursday night. Mate, thanks for your time. Looking forward to it.
GWS rug here. I think that's what I've gone after. So, no, I love it. But no, it should be a great night Thursday night. Big 12 event program, which is great to see. Shane McQueen, the headline. And, of course, plenty of feature racing coming up, as you mentioned, in the next couple of weeks as well. With the Bay Road Queen Stayers Cup Heats also coming up in the early stages of June. But good luck on Thursday night, Yates, with the call. And obviously, good luck to the Rasmussen team as well in Queensland with their big team, including Victa Damian going up to Albion Park.
Yeah, terrific stuff. I hope you enjoyed the Dogcast, and we'll see you at the track.